So, as with all committees, we've firmed up our strategy and vision and objectives for the year ahead, and the vision we decided on as a committee in the end was in support of the club's vision statements to be strong, active, dynamic and making a contribution to Wellington and beyond. We would run projects which contribute to communities in Wellington and provide service opportunities for everyone in the club. So with that as our goal in mind, what we did was we set objectives that we could really deliver on, and they were primarily to focus on one core project each year that makes a difference, to provide a minimum of 3 opportunities where as club members you can all get involved, whether it's financially or through offering your time, and we're doing that through things like the blood pressure awareness campaign, City Mission Pack the Bus and the street count that we're going to talk about, and also to run a feasibility study. Tony, I think, had the great idea that we'd do one project a year and then always plan for the next project for the next year. So we're actually doing a feasibility study on what we can pick up as the next big project, and particularly with 2021 in mind, that we can deliver something really large. So on that basis, the projects we're currently supporting are the Te Aro Healthcare Centre, the blood pressure awareness campaign that I'm going to do a bit of a plug for, and the Pack the Bus in December. We've also been asked to get involved in the Bernie Knowles Trust application process, so we're going to pick that activity up. And I had a number of people that came up to me after the Rotary event in Sydney, I think it was, where there was talk about an amazing project that was run by a Rotary club in Canada that established employment opportunities for people with disabilities. And so we're going to pick that up as our feasibility project to see whether that's something as a club we can develop projects in that area. So just for time, we'll just talk about 2 things today. The first one I'd like to cover off is the blood pressure awareness campaign. Now this is a yearly event that we support as a club. We run 2 events, one at New World in Willis Street and one at Wellington City Council. And we've done it for a number of years now. Last year we had 2 amazing events where we, in one of the locations alone, we had 230 people through having their blood pressure checked in the space of 4 hours, which was phenomenal. We had people who had no idea, and as a result of having their blood pressure checked, they were whisked off to the doctor in the hospital, so they actually had an individual impact for them, as well as all of those people suddenly became aware of the link between blood pressure and strokes. So really, really important event for Wellington. Last year we had about 24 volunteers, and we'd love the same number again. Bit of a catch, it's a week tomorrow in Wellington City Council and a week on Saturday, so the 4th of October, in New World. So I've put some sheets on the table. They look the same, but I've highlighted which date is which. And I'd love to have as many names as we can on this for slots. You'll really enjoy coming along. Everyone that went last year said it was a fantastic event, lots of fun. You got to meet lots of people, but you also got to spend time with other Rotarians, so it was a good bonding event as well. We need at least 2 people on the stand at any one time. If you can do an hour, brilliant. If you can do 2 or more, even more, brilliant. So please volunteer your time. And we'll do really good communications about what you need to do, but it's a very simple activity. We'll also, in terms of our next project, we'll do Pack the Bus at Christmas time, which last year was a brilliant event, and we did that collecting things through the club. And then we'll also work on that feasibility study I talked about. The other big project that we're really running this year is around Te Aro, that we've talked a lot about over the last year, and we're getting to know quite well. What we're doing this year for Te Aro, we've got some funding approved to purchase some more equipment for them. They need 2 pieces of equipment that will help them in their surgery, some medical equipment that will mean they can avoid people going off to the hospital, to the A&E. They can actually treat them in the clinic. So that's a double whammy, because they probably won't go to the hospital even if they're referred, so they actually get the treatment they need, but also it saves waiting time in the hospital for other people to go through the A&E rather than them having to go unnecessarily. The other project we supported Te Aro with was the street count, and thank you so much. We had a lot of volunteers from the club getting involved in that, and rather than me talk about that, I asked Joan, who was a huge organiser and also very involved in the street count, just to tell you a little bit about her experience on the day.
Thank you, Sue, and thank you all those that did participate. It was actually a really good event, even although we had to get up really early in the morning. We actually were down at the soup kitchen at about 3:30 in the morning and had a cup of coffee and got decked out on high-vis gear. We'd already been briefed earlier in the week with about 70 volunteers, so there were a lot of people involved with that. And we went out on groups of 2 to 3 with one of us as the volunteers, maybe sometimes 2 of us, with a social worker or somebody that actually worked in the streets and really knew what they were doing to keep us safe and to tell us where to look. So we had maps and we knew exactly where we were going, and we set off at 4 and we walked all around town. In my case, I walked round the wharves, round where Meridian is, round that area, not quite to the railway station. In actual fact, we didn't find anyone, but you sort of got an idea about where, if you were sleeping rough, where would you go? Where would be, warm and dry? And really in that area there actually weren't very many places, or they were very visible, and that's probably what you don't want if you're going to sleep rough. When we came back by 6 o'clock back to the soup kitchen, and then we had the breakfast that anyone else has at the soup kitchen, which was like a goulash and a bread roll, and it was actually incredibly filling. So it would keep you going for probably till mid-afternoon. When you go back in the evening, I guess, and have dinner there, and then on to the night shelter. So this time we didn't find a lot of people actually sleeping rough. That means they weren't, they were literally out on the streets sleeping. We found the number of people that the council actually thought were there. So we didn't pick up any new, as far as I know, any new people. What we did find, though, were a number of people in vehicles, and because it was quite a cold night, we couldn't see in the windows because there was too much condensation. And at that hour of the morning, you don't really want to be on windows and waking people up. But following on from that, we've been asked if we would be involved with the strategy. I have personally, through the J.R. Mackenzie Trust that I'm, our trustee representative on, and Sue's come along as a result of that. Wellington City's way ahead of the game in New Zealand. It's the first city in the country to have a homelessness strategy, and it's really aimed at making sure that young people don't get caught up on the street and get into a begging culture and then into the drug culture. So the council's really very proactive with the service organisations to get those young people off the street and into employment and into accommodation. But what they're working with the philanthropic organisations in Wellington is to see if there's ways of increasing housing for the people that have found themselves in dire straits. And, with increased cost of housing, that's actually now quite an issue. It's not just young people, and it's not just, people that are normally what we'd expect as long-term unemployed. It's actually young families and all sorts of people. So it is quite an issue. So Sue and I have gone along to the first meeting. Sorry?
Can I comment that for people who haven't enrolled yet for the conference, Justin Lester, the Deputy Mayor, is talking about the homelessness strategy at the forum on the Friday morning.
That'll be really good. So Sue and I have gone along to the first meeting of all the philanthropic groups, really as a watching brief for both J.R. Mackenzie Trust and for this club. So we'll keep posted.